Wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans, a stabby chaos coordinator, and one chief shenanigator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves to our listeners and viewers at home, starting with the one, the only Miss Charlie Cox.
Hello, everybody. I am Charlie Cox. I write science fiction and military fantasy with a sense of humor because life can be dark. So let's find a little bit of joy wherever we can.
Always a good goal. Next, we have the one, the only Miss Chloe Garner of the bow and arrow fame.
Of the bow and arrow fame, yes. I am Chloe Garner. I am the author of vast, sprawling, speculative universes and characters who will not stay under control.
I almost said archeress because archer, but I wasn't sure if that feminized version of the word archer was real. And I'm like, well, maybe I should look that up first.
When there are holes in the language, that's what writers are for. We fix them.
Bow and arrows are cool, though. I'm digging it. There have been some recent studies on that maybe we could have done a little bit better if we had used bow and arrows in the Revolution because we could have reloaded quicker and moved silenter. I don't know that I buy it entirely, but I'm willing to listen to their theories.
There are moments where that's a niche that can fill. Yeah.
Yep. All right. Next, we have the one, the only, the chief shenanigator herself, Miss Jana S. Brown, who sometimes cosplays as Jenna Ray.
Hi guys, I'm Jana S. Brown. I'm the chief shenanigator around here. That means a lot of things on a lot of different days, but you know me. Let's see, I write under the pen name Jenna Ray. That's where I put all the urban fantasy, science fiction, and anything else that fits under that umbrella. And I write other pen names for other things. And I'm happy to be here. It's been a long day, but I'm happy to be here.
All right. And just question, does Jenna and Jana like the same kinds of foods and drinks, or do you separate it in your mind?
I've never separated it out that far, so
okay,
we'll stick with the same thing because it's way too much effort to come up with a whole different list for each personality.
And last but certainly not least, we have the war mistress herself, Miss Melissa McShane.
Hi, I'm Melissa McShane, author of many different kinds of fantasy novels, including contemporary fantasy and historical fantasy, and pretty much anything else I can think of, and I am happy to be here.
All right, and obviously, this is a special episode airing on Saturday, the day before Mother's Day, because we wanted mothers to be able to listen to the episode about the badass moms of speculative fiction and still have their day off on Sunday. So we're airing this as a bonus episode. And for all of you who are wondering, yes, we plan on doing a similar episode when Father's Day rolls around. It was Jana's idea because they thought it would be a fun topic. And so I thought we'd all drag this together. And there were a couple other people. Unfortunately, we did this last minute, so not everyone who wanted to come got to make it. But there's always next year. Or if your country has Mother's Day that's different than the one in America, we can do this again and air it on your Mother's Day. I don't know if Canada does it the same day. Maybe.
India does. India has Mother's Day on the same day.
Okay, but if they have it a different day, it's an excuse to do another round of Badass Moms. Mm-hmm. So different families, different answers. But all right, so because we are civilized human beings here at the Blasters and Blades podcast, we are no longer knuckle dragging troglodytes. I'm going to ask you, ladies, coffee or tea, and which mom from speculative fiction would you want to drink it with?
Yeah, where do you want us to start?
All right, we'll start with you, Jana.
I mean, you usually do call and response on this part of the.
That was me. I got so excited thinking about my own answer that I just
let it go for the rest of us. I see how you are. As always, I am going to stick with my beloved Diet Dr. Pepper. It is getting warm out here in Utah, and I like it very, 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 very icy. And I think that I would probably drink with Raksha. I think it's Raksha. She is the wolf mom in the Jungle Book. So she adopted Mowgli and did all of those things to try to, keep him safe and all those things. And we all know how that turned out. So she was a good mom.
So the slushy they do like Dr. Pepper versions of those?
Oh yes, you can get Dr. Pepper slushies, and by the height of the summer, we have a second smaller refrigerator freezer that sits out in our garage. And by the height of the summer, the whole system gets a little bit funky because that garage gets really, really hot. So everything turns into a slushie because it just decides to freeze it all out to try to make up for it. So I get a lot of Dr. Pepper slushies during the height of the summer.
Whether you like it or not. All right,
Whether I like
Melissa,
it or not.
which speculative fiction mother would you want to drink, and what would you want to drink with them?
With okay, so
Yeah, no,
I am
is that wrong? You're not drinking
not
the mother.
sure how that works.
Wow, we went somewhere weird.
Yeah, let's not do that.
Apparently, Ranger does not agree.
Yeah. Okay. So I am drinking a lot of ginger beer here at this time. We're at the tail end of summer in India, and it is really hot, and it's too hot for hot chocolate, even for me. So I'm drinking a lot of ginger beer, and I would want to have a drink with Cordelia Vorkosigan from the Miles Vorkosigan series, because she is one of my favorite moms in fiction. And she would, of course, be drinking coffee because that's her beverage. But we would be able to share. You know, she's good at seeing what other people want, and you know, being good about not judging. And so
Well, her character was also a diplomat in addition to being a soldier, so I'm sure she would adjust to the situation.
Oh yes, she's very good at being a hostess too, when she's not shooting people and cutting off their heads.
I mean, sometimes people just need to kill them.
That's right.
All right, Charlie, what are you drinking, and who are you drinking it with?
So I am drinking coffee with sugar and a little bit of cream. And because even though this is the Pacific Northwest, it is also getting warm here. I'm going to throw some ice in that thing to cool it down a bit. And I'm going to enjoy that beverage with Sarah Connor because maybe she can teach me a few things. Her devotion to her kid is inspiring. And I like to think that I would also go to any length to protect my boys.
And she warned us about the AIs. So, I mean, she's probably looking at us and shaking her head in disgust right now.
Yep. I told you. I told you. You didn't listen to
Did
me.
you learn nothing? Did you learn nothing? Go stand in the corner. All right. What about you, Madam Chloe?
I am definitely on ice cold Coke for the summer. And okay, I have been going through and rereading a series of my own. I don't do this. I'm cheating. I'm sorry, y'all. But getting back into my Academy series, which I'm writing right now, and I have the mom running around in the background of a massive magic war doing really, really incredible things that nobody really sees coming until the very end. And I would love to sit down with Susan Blake and have a conversation about life. She thinks about things on a scale that amazes me and is prepared to make massive sacrifices in order to make sure that the right things happen in the end. So I have been tripping on my own character, y'all. I'm sorry, but that's where I live.
Hey, that's what your characters are for. You should be celebrating.
Yeah.
So originally I was liking Volka, which is the mom from How to Train Your Dragons 2, because she's a Viking and Vikings are cool, and dragons. And she'd, of course, because he's a Viking, probably going to drink ale. And I would drink ale with him and then drink coffee to fight the hangover. But then I started thinking I would also like, she's not technically a mother, but she serves a mother role raising him, but Aunt Paul in the Bulgaria series. And she was,
I think she qualifies.
So maybe after the hangover from drinking with Valka, I could drink some tea with her. Because I have a feeling the Vikings would drink me under the table.
Very likely.
But I think both of them would be very similar in their approach to life because both, as mother figures, were very no nonsense. They're not the Mary Poppins kind of moms. They were very much willing to beat you about the head and shoulders if you messed up, and that worked for me. It didn't seem too out of normal from what I grew up with, so it kind of worked. But okay, so normally we would define our terms. But I don't think anyone has a problem understanding what a mom is. If you do, you've got some life decisions you need to consider and reconsider. I would argue that motherhood does not require biology because there are some obviously adopted or surrogate mother roles that would equally as meaningful. So we will count all of those as well in this discussion. And then obviously we know what speculative fiction is. So Do you think there's any through line in how mothers are described in speculative fiction?
You mean like dead?
Well, that's
There are
YA.
a lot of those.
There are a lot
There are
of
a lot of
switched
those.
parents in YA,
Uh-huh.
but
Well,
I don't think that's a requirement.
no, but I think the reason they do it is because, well, for one thing, you have to, in young adult anyway, you have to make sure the kids can get out and do stuff on their own. And I think the idea of motherhood is so powerful that a lot of authors and filmmakers see getting rid of the mother as a major driving force in a plot or an emotional backstory or whatever. I think that's an acknowledgement of mothers being a big influence. So
I would argue that you could get the parents out of the way without killing them if you said it in the 80s and 90s, because free range kids were a thing.
Yeah, and they don't have to, but I think that's one of the reasons that they do.
So. I mean, we watched the Goonies with the kid, and they're like, "Where are the parents?" And I'm like, "Ain't it beautiful? They're not there."
It's sort of a crutch that
just getting ready to move.
Go ahead, Chloe. Freedom to do a lot of stuff that you wouldn't be able to do if there was a mom involved. So you kill her, and then you get to go do other things that are irrational otherwise. And I think it's lazy, but it's so common as a trope of the absent mom because she's dead.
Well, and because the alternative is so terrible, the mom who's not there because she's neglectful. You have Diana Wynne Jones. She wrote Time of the Ghost, and the characters in that, the children, they're young women, are so neglected by their parents that they will deliberately make their environment horrible, messy, and dirty, and so forth, to see if the parents notice, and they don't. And Diana Wynne Jones said that she wrote that based on her own childhood, and she toned it down because nobody would believe it otherwise.
That's just sad.
So I think that killing the mother avoids that sort of messy, horrible feeling of what if your mother is neglectful, because nobody wants to think that. Nobody wants to have a neglectful mother.
Well, it's like, you were talking about the mom in Goonies, but she's there and she really is trying, but she's also trying to move and trying to, so she's that other side of it's a neglect born of just being so ding dang busy. And in the 80s and 90s, we did see that a lot as more and more women were going to work and that kind of thing. And so I think it reflects that in that show that she did care about her kids, but just was so busy trying to take care of them that she didn't know what they were up to. But I also think it's interesting when the dead mother is used effectively, that she is still, because there are some mothers that are like, even though she's dead, she's a presence within the story. So you think about Harry Dresden, for example. His mom is this huge presence in the story because things that she did, the person that she was, the connections that she had, all play a really strong influence on Harry's life, on his drive, on why he does some of the things that he does, both positive things and negative things, because he wants that connection with this mother that he doesn't remember. And so I think sometimes we can use that, the mother that isn't present to still tell a really powerful story about mothers and about what it means to children when they don't have that influence and the things that they seek and the family relationships that they seek when it's not there.
Yeah, that sounds a lot like Harry Potter with Lily Potter. She died with the baby, but the whole arc of all 7 books, she's mentioned constantly. And then at the very, very end of it, her love was the whole reason why he was spared from the curse. I mean, I thought it was a beautiful way to show the true power of love. Granted, I read it with my kid when he was little, but I enjoyed it and thought that was a really great theme.
Yeah. And that kind of, I mean, I think there's 2 ways to address this question. And we've been talking about the mothers of main characters, and then there's when the mother is the main character. And you don't get that as often, especially if you're talking about a young mother who would have young children, and you don't want to be putting those young children in jeopardy in the story. So it's harder, I think, to get mothers as protagonists who are in a position to have young children. I had this problem in one of my own series where the main character has children who are between the ages of 9 and 3, and she still has to, do these different things. And she's never been a go out and kick-ass heroine. She's always been behind the scenes, and she has a very important role to play. But I had to make it clear for readers that the children were never going to be in serious danger. And there were reasons for that, and they had defenses of their own. But it's not something that a lot of readers want to see, is children in danger, kind of like not wanting to see animals in danger. So I think that makes it difficult on some level to have mothers as the protagonist. And it's easier, I think, when they're older and their children are older and have, their own ways of protecting themselves. Yeah, and so, I mean, okay, JR just mentioned Alana in the Saga books. So she's a great example because they start that series and she's giving birth in that series. So it begins with the three of them and their little family fleeing from two different groups. Well, many groups who want them dead, and she's still a really strong mother figure because she is, I think she's a former soldier.
They have some scenes where she's literally in a gunfight breastfeeding her daughter while driving.
Yeah, so she's interesting.
And I can tell you that
it doesn't happen often.
I could tell you that just the Army, one of the things we did when we were training for gun trucks is you had to be able to shoot while driving and maintaining the radio, and like 75% of the people couldn't multitask to that level. And that's just normal people. And so, the fact that you've got this lady doing it while she's breastfeeding, which, anybody who's been around a mother breastfeeding knows it drains their energy. That adds an extra level to what she's doing and makes it even more impressive. Just basing it on, real life examples of what that would take from a character.
Well, almost every mother I know has to become, just by virtue of necessity, an expert at juggling multiple things like that. I don't think that I can't remember very many times that I could just sit there and do one thing. I mean, my daughter's older, and still it's okay, we get up in the morning and we start the Nutella sandwiches, and while we're doing that, we unload the dishwasher, and then I make sure that she's awake because the alarm clock may or may not have gone off, and I've still got to make sure her father gets out the door. And mothers really became very quickly the queen of multitasking because that's what you have to do to run a household. And you go back further when we didn't have the technology that we have now, and it was even more the case because you had to make sure everything was being taken care of in order to make a household go. And so, yeah, the multitasking is a big motherly trait because it's survival.
But we also used to stay in family units a lot longer in a lot more connected way than we do now. And that makes it, I don't know if it's harder or easier, but definitely different. And that changes things too. And so I think in fantasy, you tend to see more, at least from what I've seen, when you do have the mother character, there is that community that tends to be around them. In sci-fi, when I've seen a lot of the mothers, they're off on their own. It's just them against the voids, as it were. If you use sci-fi with Sarah Connor, she's kind of on her own. Ellen Ripley with the Terminator, like a lot of times in the sci-fi side of things, they don't give them any support. I guess the tech is supposed to be their support structure, but I think that's a poor substitute for family.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also in both of those examples, we're almost telling sci-fi horror.
Yeah.
And that's a different kind of plot and is going to require a different kind of woman as your lead character.
Because it's deliberately isolating.
That's what makes the horror work.
Right.
Is that sense of I am stuck by myself and I have to protect somebody else. That adds a different thing to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think that the stories that tell of the mothers that are in speculative fiction, do you think they work better when the kids are, past infancy and a little bit older? Or do you think it matters from a storytelling point of view?
I don't think it's about mattering so much as that emotional choice, because you're telling a different story if you've got very young children involved versus teenagers. And I think that's what it comes down to is it's still effective, but you're a different kind of mom the further you go, just naturally, because we're different kind of humans as we grow. And so I think it's just, what story you're trying to tell.
There's the physically dependent child that you have to have with you, or you have to have covered at all times, that changes the logistics of the entire thing, right up until you have the disappearing baby trope.
Mhm.
But ignoring the disappearing baby, you have women who are accomplishing the conflict of their story, and we're talking an awful lot about like full amplitude violent conflict. I'd really like to put Morticia Adams on the list here. There's some really
Awesome.
cool mom stories that don't involve war and famine, that have really cool moms in them who are just being family moms in a speculative environment. And it doesn't she is full on a mom and a wife every minute of those stories, and it's really cool what you can say about what it means to be a mom when nobody looks normal. But you have the ferocious mom who has a baby on her hip, that the stakes are high and her capacity is limited, and it changes the shape of the story compared to autonomous children, where she is fighting for home and hearth, but she is not vulnerable in the same way that a dependent child is.
I think
And doesn't
vulnerable is a
Morticia
good
have
word there.
yeah. Doesn't Morticia have a whole thing where she's talking to Gomez and she's talking about how she wants to have it all, the home and the family and all that kind of stuff. And then also a chance to worship the dark things and to dance in
Mhm.
their fiendish brigade and the whole 9 yards. And it's like
Mhm.
it's so Morticia, but it does really encapsulate what a lot of women are looking at, to be able to say, yeah, I do want all of these things, but I have passions to join the dark forces and dance in their in their brigades. And I'll have to look at the exact quote and put it in the show notes somewhere,
Mhm.
because
I
it's really,
didn't
really funny.
used to respect the Addams Family. I thought that it was a silly, trivial sort of uh, Hitchhiker's Guide type movie where it's just goofy for its own sake. And my husband came and was like, "No, you don't understand. This is the most wholesome, family-oriented conversation about the allegory of life that has ever been made." And I'm like, I'm supposed to be the one who says that stuff, dude. You should not be winning this fight. But he was absolutely right. And I love that image of speculative fiction is always is often off with the blasters and the blood and the high stakes and the end of the world. And to have a family that has the entire family cemetery in the backyard, and they all show up for the celebrations together.
Yeah.
It's just this
Go fetch
lovely
them.
view of I tell people a lot that speculative fiction can say what it means to be human a lot more cleanly than anything else, because we don't bring in the trappings of reality as we have that conversation. And the Addams Family is sort of the pinnacle of that. This is what a family is, and it's not pretty, and it's weird, it's very dysfunctional by any possible measure, but it's amazing too.
So you mentioned examples because you with Morticia Adams that wasn't running and gunning. You could also throw Dr. Beverly Crusher into the mix from Star Trek: The Next Generation, although I would argue she's responsible for Wesley Crusher, which is the most annoying character in science fiction. But she is definitely a mother, and her role was definitely like support on the show. She wasn't beaming away on away missions except for to render medical aid when things have been cleared. So I think that's an example of showing a mother that isn't also just super soldiering the heck out of it. And she was.
They did give her some severe kick-assitude in a few specific episodes as we got later in The Next Generation and we got into some of the movies. She went on away missions where she was. She and Picard had a spy mission. There were several other things where they really let her play both sides of the role. but earlier on it was mostly,
Mhm.
doctor on board. But also she was, the commander of her own realm, and that was very, very interesting. That happens when you get these moms that aren't necessarily your guns and blazes ones. They still tend to have areas over which they have charge, and that's their thing. And because she wasn't just protecting Wesley, but she was also protecting everybody on the ship. They were all her responsibility as the chief medical officer.
Yeah. Another great example of that is Janet Fraser in Stargate SG-1. She adopts Cassie, and she's not biologically Cassie's mom, but she stands up to all these scientists who want to run these tests and take all these samples. And she's like, the hell you are. No, you're not doing it. So she was another, example of a kick-ass mom, even though she wasn't biologically a mom. She took on that role, adopted this child, and treated her like she was her own. And I thought that was a beautiful thing.
Well, and while we're
Yeah.
talking about, interesting science fiction ones, you get kind of one of the big arcs of the reimagined Battlestar Galactica was all about motherhood, because you had the Cylons who were trying to figure out, what it meant to be human. And a whole lot of what happened there was the birth of Athena and a birth of, all the, not was Athena the mother. I'm going to get the name wrong because it's been a while since I last saw it. But this idea that the Cylons wanted to get pregnant and to have babies and to understand how family worked and how all of that came together. And that was a whole subplot of that entire 3 seasons was, what does it mean to be human, and how is that connected with building families and motherhood?
And the linking of families, one of the things I was thinking about, because I mentioned Cordelia Vorkosigan, is that an important aspect of that series is the uterine replicator, which in the first edition of Shards of Honor was listed as being very rare and for unusual procedures. She retconned that to be common and safe and frequent use, which I thought was interesting. So you have... We have not just motherhood, but pregnancy. What does that mean? And do we romanticize pregnancy? She goes as far as to eventually have pretty much everyone choosing to use a uterine replicator. And then what if you don't? What are the dangers you're exposing your unborn child to? So technology being what it is, I think we romanticize pregnancy. And not in a bad way. I mean, romanticize makes it sound like it's very negative, but in terms of we look at that as being something important and scary and beautiful and all these other things, and having all these effects on the mother's body. Well, what do you do if you can have children and you don't go through the pregnancy? It's a question she never really addresses. Honestly, she's very much in favor of, this is something everybody would adopt. And I think that's underestimating the number of women who are like, no, I really want to feel that connection to my baby. I want to feel that I'm, part of their gestation.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Terry Mixon did that with his Empire of Bone saga. The main character, the female, gets pregnant because the procedure that makes her a super soldier, where they implant all that stuff in her, turns off her natural birth control, which she took before, like implanted it before she goes on this cruise. And then by the time they find out she's pregnant, there's a whole big scene where the doc's like, well, yeah, it's too late to like put it in the artificial womb. And that was a joke line because everybody used the artificial womb. Nobody wanted to go through labor. And so I think everyone just generically, when they write about that tech, just assumes everyone's going to use it.
Yeah. And I don't think that's true.
Yeah, and I would agree with you, Melissa, because I know for me, the first time I felt my baby kick, it was just like, wow, this is surreal. And
I think I don't want to discount the importance of that, because there are a lot of women who can't carry to term or who have serious problems, and how important that is. So what I wouldn't want to see is a breakdown of social stigma between one way or the other. I think you'd need to have respect for both kinds of pregnancy, but I just in that specific instance, I don't think she thought it through about women who would want to, but anyway, so that's just a little, how we get to be moms. Because I was thinking about it because you were talking about adoptive mothers, and it's still motherhood.
Absolutely.
You're still the mother to this child, and it doesn't really matter how you got there.
They actually use that in a lot of the sci-fi with the cloning tropes, is how they're to dehumanize them is because they were raised in a womb or a vat or whatever, that they didn't have that experience with a mom, is one way they just automatically use to dehumanize the clones as something that's other.
That's true.
And so you do see the inverse of that when you talk about cloning technology in science fiction. Most of the time you see that, though, it's military science fiction where they address cloning, because what are you cloning them for if not for labor or soldiers? But it's definitely interesting how it's handled based on the genre, subgenre, I guess, of speculative fiction. Are there any other examples that you guys can think of where it is someone who's not just the warrior, the more along the lines of like that Morticia Addams or the Beverly Crusher?
Oh, Nanny Ogg from the Discworld
Yes.
novels, which I'm
I
sure
love
you still
Nanny
have
Ogg.
not read, JR.
I have not.
Okay, you're in trouble with
You're
me.
missing out.
With all of us.
I can only afford
yes.
so many audiobooks a month.
Okay, well, the new audiobooks are fantastic. But Nanny Ogg, as the mother of the witches trio, she is not a fighter in the traditional sense, but she is constantly making things happen. She has this wide web of family networks that she just sits in the center of and tugs the strings. And I would not want to marry an Ogg son, because her daughters-in-law are oppressed and they are miserable creatures who she doesn't even bother to learn their names. But her children and her grandchildren and all her different, the kids that are hers, she is fiercely devoted to. And I'm more in sympathy with her every day. The older I get, you'd think I would be getting closer to being Granny Weatherwax, which I kind of am. But seeing Nanny Ogg's perspective on family is growing on me.
Yeah, though we get some of that even with Granny Weatherwax, especially when they become fairy godmothers for a little while, sort of. And her whole thing is that it's not about giving you what you want; it's about giving you what you need. And that is such a practical mom line, because I've thought that about my kids before, where it's like, well, here's the things that you want, but what is it that you actually need? And that practicality, I think, speaks to a lot of things that mothers are dealing with, to say, yeah, I want to give them all the things, but is that really good for them? And Weatherwax is a fantastic example of that.
You mentioned fairy godmothers, and they got me thinking that in the Disneyfied version of Snow White, the fairies that raised her in the woods for a while because her mother died, and obviously the evil queen, they were sort of surrogate mothers to her when they're out there,
You mean Sleeping Beauty?
Sleeping Beauty,
Aurora?
yes. Sorry.
Yeah.
I am not up on my
Snow
Disney princesses. I am sorry.
Yeah.
And Aurora's mother lives. Aurora's mother
yeah.
lives. She sees her again. The fairies take her away because it's the only way to protect her, depending on the
And you
version.
see that grief in that short scene where they take her away, that the mothers have to, the mother has to give her baby daughter up. And
You
how terrible that
actually,
is.
we've talked about it because we're going to do a review when it comes out. He-Man's mom in the trailer for the new one coming out. That's one of the, she gave him up to, because he would be safe on Earth, away from everything that was going on. And that is one of the driving points of that show. Based on the trailer, obviously it's not out yet, so we can only go by what we saw in the 3-minute trailer. But I mean, I think you can do a good mother role without it having to be,
That's a dead mom trope.
Yep.
You still
I also want to put a couple of other Disney moms on the list, though. I think that the grandmother from Moana, and I was going to go look up her name and didn't sneak away long enough.
Agreed. She was amazing.
She has this wild spirit in her that is so calm and so steady and so beautiful, that has a guiding light to it that is just, that's one of the most beautiful expressions of generational guidance that I think I can think of. And then the mom from Merida from
Mm.
Brave,
Yeah.
where she has that bear, the literal bear attitude. Like I want to call the mother bear attitude, and I keep no, but I'm actually I want to talk about the actual mother bear, where she is not in control of the situation. She's not a warrior. She shows up and nothing is the way it's supposed to be, and all the same she is still a mother bear to her children.
Well, and I love in that one that she walks in the room and all of these guys who were just a minute ago just pummeling the crap out of each other and everything else, they all drop to attention because she is the queen, she is who she is, and that demands this immediate respect. And she doesn't have to fight or anything else, but her sheer presence quells that entire room of clansmen from what they're doing. And it's just like, yep, this is a woman who is absolutely confident in who and what she is, and everybody has to respect that. And that's a beautiful scene.
I mean, but isn't that kind of the Lady of the Manor trope pretty much used a lot of times, that, you know, they kind of rule with the iron fist?
She doesn't rule with an iron fist. She rules with a sense of grace that expects civilization. It's an extraordinary differentiation from I am the queen and you will quake before me. No, I am the queen and you will behave.
Yeah. And that's the mother thing. That's the difference. My grandmother, my grandfather was 6'4". My grandmother was 5'3" on a good day with nice shoes. And she was this tiny thing, and he was a farmer and built like a farmer. And they proceeded to have 7 children who were also built like farmers and all of that kind of thing. And that's the way that she ran her home. Is that she was never harsh, she was never any of those things, but she was the ultimate word there, and you will behave, because to have that disappointed motherly look put on you is one of the worst things that could possibly happen. And it doesn't matter if you are a grown man, people back down from her, and she didn't even have to do anything. And it's that thing that then we see in Brave, and we see in some of these where it's not ruled by harshness. It is, I am the mom here, and this is the expectation that I have for you, that this is how we behave in this household.
What show was it? I know it's not speculative, and I'm really sorry, but what show was it where she says, all I have to do is count to 3 and I get what I want? It doesn't matter where I am or what I'm doing. 1, 2, and we look around, she goes 2.5, and her drink shows up on her table. And I wish, it's not speculative, I'm almost certain, but that's what being a mom is. I can count to 3 and get what I want, because that's what mom authority looks like. And the mom from Brave has that mom authority, but the really graceful version.
Are you talking about?
And Helen Carr has that Elastigirl from Incredibles, where she steps in there, and it's a case of, you know, she literally has the arms to grab each child as they are causing problems, and it's, I got you, and I've got you, and knock it off, and you know, and bringing their family back together every time things happen, and having to step in and say, you know, how, because she has an odd balance of, I'm supposed to be a superhero and do the superhero things, and also I have these children that I love who are superpowered children, and how do I teach them to use those powers in the right way and to protect themselves and to protect each other? And there's a lot that goes on there from a mom point of view. Even that moment where she turns around and she looks at her own butt and she goes, that is not the butt that I had before I had children. And that's a really mom moment too, because it's not a vanity moment. It's just acknowledging this is who I've become over the years, and maybe that's okay.
That would remind me of that scene from Freaky Friday, where the mom is in the daughter's body and she's eating the French fry. Talk about, it was a moment on the lips, a lifetime on the hips, and how she hasn't had a French fry in however many years. Is those kinds of moments where the kind of out of body experience. That I thought that portrayed that as well too, and that's definitely speculative fiction. So
yeah. Well,
No,
and speaking of Helen Parr, just for a minute, she starts off The Incredibles by being high powered, top of her game, no interest in family, none of this, and then we cut to later when she's got the 3 children, and she has adapted beautifully. She has decided, yeah, this is what I want, and I think that is interesting because sometimes you get women characters who don't think that's what they want out of life. They don't want to be the mother. They don't want to give up. And then when they do, for whatever reason, they have an adopted child come into their lives, they end up with children, whatever, and find out that this is just an adaptation of what they were always doing, that they were strong, they were powerful, they had it under control, and that fits with being a mother because you need those skills. And I like Elastigirl for that. I like
but she
seeing
cheats.
that. Well,
I mean, you got Elastic Arms as a mom. That's cheating.
No.
oh no,
okay,
no.
so
You any advantage you get.
I was really annoyed when somebody pointed it out to me, but The Incredibles are so painfully on the nose for their family roles. She is
Yes.
the mom who is literally being stretched in every direction. She has a teenage daughter who just wants to disappear. She has a son who is running around in circles and bouncing off of the walls. And she has a baby that is running the entire family. Her husband is super strong and carrying the family literally on his shoulders. It's completely on the nose, but it doesn't do it in a way that I saw it go by, so I have to give them credit. It's not obvious, it's not shallow or transparent, but it's not that she cheats, it's that she is the story of what a mom is.
Okay.
Well, and it's interesting in some stories how you'll get somebody that, that this is what Melissa was just saying about adopted moms and that kind of thing. And sometimes it's the adopting children and learning that motherly instinct or whatever that then prepares them for having their own. So like I'm thinking about Kate Daniels right now in the Kate Daniels series by Lana Andrews, and she goes through and by I think it's book 2. In fact, I'm sure it's book 2. She ends up with a ward. She's 11 years old and her mom dies, and here's Kate, and Kate says, well, and at the end, she says, are you going to be my mom now? And she says, I have no qualifications whatsoever to be a mom, so maybe I'll just be your crazy Aunt Kate. And then over the next several books, they develop this relationship as she's trying to take care of Julie to say, well, we need to send her to school and we need to make sure that she has all of these things. So she's learning how to be the mom to this growing teenager, and becoming more and more of that motherly role, which sets it up so that by the last book, when she has a child of her own, she's ready for that now because she had all this experience, and now they're a family, and Julie is as much her daughter as the biological son is. But you just get those different dynamics of we've seen her with the teenager, and now we have to see her apply what she learned with the teenager to a baby, and then a small child who turns into a half lion shifter and runs around and does crazy things. And I love the addition of the kid in that last book because Kate is kick butt and all these kinds of things, but she's also trying to handle the fact that her child has just jumped on both she and her husband and is running around the bed yelling naked, naked, naked. And it breaks the expectations of the urban fantasy to have this kid racing through, and they're like, we have to get him in his car seat, and he doesn't want to be in his car seat, and we can't find the stuffy that he needs so that he will stay in his car seat, and at the same time there's a dragon coming and we have to save the world. And I do like some of that that trying to put that family life against we're also trying to save the world, because it does hit those notes of there's a sense of humor there, but it's also such a realistic sense of humor because every mom knows that, okay, I've got to do this and this and this and this and this. And where is the stuffy? Why can we not find the stuffy? Because if we don't find the stuffy, the world will end. And so I like seeing that in that book, how it prepared her for her own, having another child that way, and then how they built that combined family all around Kate's ability to love people.
And I think something that we can all agree on, fiction or not, is that no one ever really thinks they're ready to be a mom.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's some people who think that they are, and they find out that they are woefully unprepared. But the thing is, when a child comes into your life, everything changes. It changes so much, but it changes for the better. And you don't realize what you were missing until you hold that baby in your arms for the first time, or until your toddler gives you a great big hug. It's the most beautiful thing in the world. And it's really difficult to put that into words, but it's something that when done right in fiction, be it a movie or a book or a TV show, it's an absolutely beautiful thing. And I think it's awesome that we're taking some time to celebrate it.
Yeah.
What I also like is you're not leaning on the trope that in order to show a strong mom, she has to be a single mom, because and while that is hard work, and I'm not negating that, I do think in an effort to glorify that, sometimes they negate what the moms in committed relationships are having equal difficulties, maybe different difficulties, but that are going through stuff too, and that gets ignored in a lot of the fiction. And if you look at when you see the Motherhood, where there's parental buy-in from all parties, it tends to be older. Whereas nowadays, the newer stuff, it's all about the single mom. And I like seeing that too, because fiction should be, in my opinion, aspirational. So I like that we're encouraging, happy, healthy families for everybody. I mean, obviously, you adjust when you have to. Stuff happens, but let's not pretend the other way is the only way either.
Yeah.
So I like that we see across like the divide, including in some, and I'm trying to remember what it was, but I've seen somewhere it was even alien examples, like where the child they adopt isn't even of the same species, right? Like if you're looking at sci-fi, the idea that pops to mind is the male figure, so that's better. Father's Day example, but but there are plenty of examples where they call that one lady in Game of Thrones Mother of Dragons, for crying out loud, because she raises them. I just can't remember names. So
Daenerys.
Daenerys, there we go. But there's plenty of examples where it doesn't even have to be species to species. I would say it's different if they're not sentient, then it's a pet, not a. But when the other being is sentient, I think motherhood still applies.
Yeah.
Any examples you guys come to mind, or you can think of where it wasn't just human to human or elf to elf or whatever?
Well, the only one I could think of was Enemy Mine, and that's a male figure, not a mother.
Yeah. That's what came to mind too, but there has to be examples out there. And if you know of any, dear listener, throw them in the comments, because I in my head, I know I've seen it, but it's just not coming to mind.
Well, we talked about the Jungle Book in the beginning.
Oh, yes.
And that's a wolf who takes in a man cub. And really all of the animals there that are taking on different kinds of protective figures. But, that's very specifically a she-wolf who says, I'm not going to let it die. And I'll raise it alongside. And we see that one comes up a few times where you get wolves and that kind of stuff that take on baby humans. You see that in different folklore and that and such, where it's yes, this child's been left out in the wilderness, and so some loving, very often a wolf mother. That's an interesting thought. I'll have to think about that more.
There's one that comes to mind. It's
Tarzan. Disney's Tarzan. Yeah.
One that comes to mind is called I, Mother, but it's a robot. So I don't know if it's not. Is it sent? I don't know. Robots get weird for me, because how do you determine whether it's following its program or it's truly sapient and sentient? And I just don't know. But it was definitely a robot that raised a child.
Yeah, if it's taking care of them like that, then why not?
Well, there's reasons why we could argue against it too, but that would be spoiler territory. So,
yeah.
But I'm just thinking, as an example, there are some out there besides just the common wolf. So a lot of raised by wolves. You're right about that. What about Martha Kent? There you go, Superman's mom.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. He's an alien.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Did Terry Pratchett do this with the orc? There's an
Oh,
orc who thought
yeah.
he was a
In
goblin.
Unseen Academicals.
Unseen
Yes.
Academic, yeah.
Do we
and-
have a
and he
parent
was-
story for him, or is
I
he
don't
just?
think so, because he just
I can't
comes in
remember.
and they think he's a goblin and he's sort of bent, and then over the course of the story he grows, but it's not parenthood, it's friendship that does it for him,
Yeah.
which is too bad, because I think that would be interesting if it was a mama human,
Or even a
raising-
goblin.
or even a goblin human parent. Yeah, well, a
Yeah.
goblin parent raising an orc, that would be
Yeah.
fantastic. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Carrot the human is raised by the dwarves.
That's right. He has a dwarf
right.
mother.
And he
Uh-huh.
shows
He's
up
pretty
and
sure
has
she's
that
female.
whole speech about, what would your old dwarven mothers crying into their beards think of what you become, and when was the last time that you wrote home? I mean, he shames the entire pub based on what would your dwarven mothers think of what you're doing. It's the
Yeah.
greatest speech. We read that one, and the boys, my sons, crack up every time, because they're like, oh yeah, the shame that you get from the when was the last time you called your mother kind of thing. It's just too much. Terry Pratchett's
Yeah.
very good at that kind of connection to motherhood.
Oh, I found another one. Samus. This one I googled, so it's not coming to my head. I just cheated. Samus Aran from the Metroid series is a human orphan raised by a bird-like alien Chozo.
Oh, cool. Okay.
I imagine there are others, but I don't want to spend all night just googling everything, so that would be kind of boring. Do you think that we will see? We've talked about why it's important. We've talked about what we've seen examples of it. Do you think going forward you're going to see more of it where robotics is involved? Do you think that's going to become more of a trend in fiction? Or do you have any predictions on where motherhood might show up going forward in literature?
I do.
Go for it.
So I think that robotics as a method of raising new children is probably going to maintain a consistent rate. We see it in Brave New World. This is something that, we theorize what happens when machines are able to make babies. The world changes. I don't think that there's anything really going on in the world that makes that idea substantially new since the Victorians. But I do think that with women writing a larger and larger share of speculative fiction, and with women now reading speculative fiction, where 2 generations ago speculative fiction was the domain of little boys, and we're getting to a point where women are growing into the genre as writers and as readers. I suspect that we will see larger and larger pieces of what women's lives look like, framed in speculative fiction, in the inimitable way that speculative fiction can do that, where we saw the midlife urban fantasy take off not long ago, because the women who are writing it are as an incoming wave. There are women who went before, and thank goodness for the grand dames of speculative fiction. They broke ground that was really formative for a lot of us. But as a wave of writers, we're going through menopause and through being grandmothers and through being the aged old women, and it's not just men writing these stories, and it's not just women occasionally writing them under pen names. It's a full portion of the writing community now, and I think that we're going to get broader and broader writing covering what women's lives look like.
And I think that's a great point, Chloe. I hear so many women lamenting about, why is every strong female character in her 20s? Can we have some 40-year-old mom who happens to go for a walk in the woods and gets lost and picks a flower, and next thing she knows, she's in an alternate universe? So there's definitely a demand for it. And I actually have a story that I wrote. It's not fantasy. It's going to be coming out next year, I think. But it's nice to be able to take my own personal life experiences and use them in a story and not have to think back to when I was a teenager or back to when I was in my 20s, and actually take who I am now as a person and throw that into a character and use it. And it was
Wait, you're not 20 now?
No. Yeah.
Don't wish 20 on us again.
No. I like where I am.
I want my knees back at 20.
I think that character story arcs are made around finding your place in the world. And it's always stories are always going to be dominated by people in their late teens and early 20s, because that's where you have all of these big character arcs happening in your personal existence. But I'm right there with you. I am launching a new series next year where the main character is in her mid-40s and has to figure out how to make the pickup line in between killing demons. And it's great fun to go write that kind of stuff. And it's so much fun to believe that there is an audience out there that wants to go follow these characters too. They belong in the bibliography of speculative fiction every bit as much.
And one of the things that I hope is that as a young reader, I was reading a lot of stories that were about men and did not resent that, because there were plenty of stories about women too. But it interested me because this was something that I had no experience with. And I would like to hope that as we get more stories written about the female experience, that male readers will look at that too and say, oh, that's interesting. I mean, it still always blows my mind that I have male fans, that because I'm writing solidly about extraordinary women doing extraordinary things, and yet I get male readers, and I'd like to think that that will continue and grow and show ways in which we can understand each other. I would like to see that. I would like to see that happen. I have hope that that's what's going to happen.
Jana, did you have thoughts before I jump in?
Oh, just there was a book that all this made me think of, and it's called Mother of the Chosen One. So, and it is the most hysterical book because she's older, she's divorced, her kid is the one that is the almost 20-year-old and gets sucked into the whole Chosen One prophecy. But the book is not about the Chosen One prophecy and her kid. It's about her as a mother running around trying to keep her Chosen One daughter safe. And having to interject into things, many of which her daughter is unaware of, because her daughter is moving forward and having this Chosen One urban fantasy life and has no idea how many things in the background her mother has stopped from happening because, not my kid, not on my watch. And so I do think we're getting some of those stories where they're saying, yeah, you can still do that. And in the, what's her name? Is it Edith Frisner that did the Chicks in Chainmail?
Esther Friesner.
Esther, thank you. There was a whole series of these books that they're short stories and that kind of thing. And so there's Chicks in Chainmail, Did You Say Chicks, all this, that, and the other. And there's a reoccurring character story that goes through that who is a soccer mom and also a demon hunter. And so you get that thing of, she's at the ball game and things are happening. And then she's got to, everybody take 5, and she has to run off behind the bleachers and murder things, and then she has to come back and make her normal life run. And
You're talking about Buffy for adults?
What was that?
Yeah,
basically Buffy for adults?
Yeah. And speaking of Buffy, we didn't mention Joyce Summers, who is another.
Oh yeah.
Mom.
Yep.
We did not mention her.
So I have some theories. So one of the things that you see is a lot in the YA. You saw a lot of fridged parents because we for reasons we've hit on this podcast ad nauseum. But given the the Star Warsification of science fiction, that's like the Disneyfication of fairy tales kind of thing. But you're seeing more, at least I've noticed more, where the mom comes back. She's still dead, but she's coming back in the spirit form, either in the form of flashbacks or as literal ghosts to advise. So even though she's gone,
Supernatural did that.
Was that?
Yeah.
Supernatural did that.
I haven't seen every episode, so if they did that, I missed that one.
Oh, she was a major character through some of the later seasons after they got real weird.
Okay.
But
really weird.
Yeah.
She was a dead mom, and then she was the dead mom that they kept trying to resurrect over and over again.
And then my other theory is as the average age of motherhood just in the West is rising. I think it's over 30 now. I think that's going to change the way stories are told about mothers too. I mean, it's just going to have to. So, before it was always the young frazzled mom, and now you're going to get the older frazzled mom. And because of that, they're going to be in different places in life, and that's going to necessarily affect the kind of stories you tell about them, I would think.
Yeah, good point.
Because people are going to tell stories that resonate with their lives. I mean, we all do that. Whether consciously or not, our own experiences get inserted into our stories. And so I would imagine that starts to get reflected in the future fiction.
That makes a lot of sense. My own boys are 14 years apart, and I am not the same person I was when I had either one of them. So that makes really good sense.
Yeah. Was there anything else ideas around motherhood and speculative fiction that you think we should cover? I know we're hitting an hour, and mom's got to go, drink their whatever they're drinking as they relax. So no. Jana,
No.
Closing thoughts.
I'm counting. Hush.
Melissa, closing thoughts while Supermom over there knits whatever she's knitting.
I was just thinking about the moms that have been in my books, and the ones where there's a lady who's 50 before she has her adventure, and there's the mom who's the oracle and is trying to help all her little oracles become human beings. And I'm speaking of rereading our series. I'm reading one of my series to my daughter, who's dyslexic and is the most pampered dyslexic in the world, because people will read aloud to her, so she doesn't have to struggle. And it's another one of those where she adopts a ward. She is put in charge of the 8-year-old king who's on the lam because his uncle killed his father, and she does not want to be in charge of a child. She has no idea what to do. And it's that no idea what to do. And I think Charlie mentioned this too, that everybody feels like, we're not ready. And I think one of the things about motherhood is that it makes you ready in itself, that being a mother, becoming a mother is the preparation that you get for being a mother. Because no matter how prepared you are, I know my youngest brother is 18 years younger than I am, and I was helping to care for him. And it was only 4 years later that I had my first child, and he prepared me. I thought I knew what I was doing because it was that close, but I had no idea. There were so many things I couldn't expect. So I think that being a mother is what prepares you for that. I think that you take that on and you take what comes and you do your best.
And I do like seeing that, we're allowing motherhood to be lots of things, and that not all step parents are wicked anymore.
Yes.
Because that was a trope for the longest time. And as I came into being a stepmother, it was one of those, I never want to be in that role of being thought of as a wicked stepmother. And I'm very fortunate in that I got the 2 best boys in the entire world out of the deal. And so we got along very, very well, and never ran into that. But at one point, I remember that, and we weren't supposed to overhear this, but we did anyway, because, you snoop on your kids accidentally. But it was Melissa's son who asked my oldest boy, well, which is better, your mother or your stepmother? And my husband was listening, and Jason says, I don't know. They're both moms. And so I like that we're starting to see stories that also reflect that idea that it doesn't necessarily matter as long as they're fulfilling that role for you. There's room for love in a lot of different situations.
And as science progresses, we're going to see more of that. There's talk about using 3 people's DNA for some creative creation of children. So for thruples to have a child that's related to all 3. There's some litigation in the courts as we record this episode about that very topic. I know plural families was covered in the reboot of Battlestar Galactica, if you looked at some of the cultures, because they based it on the ancient Greeks and Romans. So I also think motherhood doesn't have to look like just like it does on Earth. There's room to explore outward and use your imagination. That's part of the fun of fantasy and science fiction and all of the things, right? Like you can explore the craziest, weirdest, whatever. And it's all got its place for you to explore concepts. And I think that's fun too. Although I'm getting looks from Chloe, so you look like you want to say something.
Oh, that hurts. There's an awful lot of biology that goes into mother to child that I don't think science has the first foot in the door.
Mhm.
But as you say, letting speculative fiction experiment with it, you can think new thoughts. And I actually had a species of aliens that had 3 parent roles. There was a father and a mother, but they were both warriors and didn't have gender characteristics of any specific degree. And there was a third parent involved who was the caretaker to young. And all 3 of them were in a, a, a a single relationship that was a lifelong commitment among the 3 of them with 3 distinct genders. So I have played with that, even with as strong an opinion as I have about from mother to child. You need your antibodies, and you need the sound of her heartbeat, and you need all of the things that makes your mother human to come to you. But yeah, as you say, I've played with that too.
Well, that's the joy is though, because we don't have to limit ourselves to humanity when we're talking speculative fiction. But also, it's that old joke about speculative fiction says don't break or don't build the great evil Thagomizer or whatever because it's bad. And then science says, hey, we can build the great evil Thagomizer. Let's do it. And so they build the thing they warned you about. I'm messing up the meme, but you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, it goes along the lines of just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something.
Yes,
Right.
Dr. Malcolm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We mentioned Superman a while back, and just real quick about this whole, the advances in science and technology and everything else. What would happen if Clark Kent was raised by the Luthers and he wasn't raised by the So that brings up the whole nature versus nurture. Just because you're born a certain way doesn't mean you're necessarily going to end up. However, nurture and how you're raised and your early life experiences also shape who you are as a person. So your destiny is not ultimately determined as soon as you're born or hatched or however you want to phrase it. So just thought I'd throw that out there.
No, that's an interesting question, and that might be an interesting story for someone to write. But of course, I don't know how you tell that outside of using that IP to get the point across, and it's kind of locked down. And their lawyers are better than my lawyers, so. But it would be a very interesting story to see what that looks like in a parallel Earth where Superman was raised by that other family. That'd be interesting. All right, closing thoughts. Jana, before we wrap this up, are you still counting?
I just did my closing thoughts.
Okay, I'm just giving you one more thing before you stab somebody.
I don't stab people with crochet hooks because it's bad for the hook.
And you're not pointy enough.
And just so everyone knows, yes,
it's definitely pointy enough. I could definitely do some damage with this if I wanted to. That's not the thing. It's just that cleaning out the underside of the hook is no fun. So.
+1 to damage though, so that's a win. And yes, Chloe is in the comments telling me what the Thagomizer is. I know, but my mind went blank trying to remember the meme, and that's all that popped up. All right, so we're gonna go round robin, and Melissa, what are you reading at the moment?
What am I reading at the moment? I am reading my series, The Crown of Tremontaine, to my daughter. We are well into the 2nd book, and she is emotionally invested in fiction in a way that most people only get once or twice in their lives. And
delightful.
so she's very, very concerned about the romance between the 2 main characters, and is it ever going to be resolved? And I keep having to tell her, just a couple more chapters, it's okay. But that's what I'm reading right now, is The Crown of Tremontaine by me. And it's
You're not biased
fun.
at all.
Oh no.
Well,
Do you
she
do
thinks
it's really good. I do. Yes.
Outstanding. Charlie, what are you reading at the moment?
So earlier today, I actually just finished beta reading a short story for one of my co-authors in this new anthology dropping in a couple months, Arcane Awakenings. It's an urban fantasy anthology where magic is real, and it's the origin story of however different authors want to do it. So it's been really fun. This was my 3rd critique swap that I participated in, and it was a great story, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how all these things are going to come together.
All right, Chloe?
I am reading my own book. I'm No, I am writing books 8 through 11 in a series that I started publishing in 2019. I think the most recent book that I've published in the series is 2020. So I'm a lot of years out and trying to go pick up. It's a giant war with politics and facts and dual. Everybody is playing both sides, and it's crazy. I'm trying to go get myself back deep into the swing of it, but I'm remembering how authentic this world felt when I was living in it. It's been a lot of fun. It's an academy series with a giant magic war going on that keeps spilling into the school, and the school is actually switching sides, and now they're declaring their own independence and starting their own side. And yeah, it's been a lot of fun going in and exploring this world like it's not mine again.
Okay. I am reading Spacers Book 2 by Scott Bartlett to write a review. I've got like 2.5 hours left. And then I start War Master 5.
War Master 5. You're going to like it.
I hope so. I mean, I think I got the first 7 or 8. I don't think I have the 9th one on audiobook yet. I'd have to check. But I don't know if that one's out in audiobook yet, is it?
The 9th one is out in audiobook. The 10th one is I have to put up for pre-order today.
Yeah. But yeah, so I am reading Spacers 4. Spacers 2. I'm almost done with it, and then I got to write the review, and then I'll move over to War Master 5. And what about you, Jana?
I'm doing. I'll do 2 because the first one follows the thing we've had here that I just closed an anthology as far as my open calls. So I have a whole stack of short stories that I'm reading so that I can select who's going to be in the anthology. I got a really good list of authors, and cutting these down is going to be hard. It might be there may be extra stories in this versus my ideal, just because the things I've started to read are so good. So I'm doing that as a project, but then I'm also reading In Plain Sight by Dan Willis.
Okay.
And this is a fun series. It's the Arcane Case books, and it's a 1930s noir with magic urban fantasy romp. And so you get that very 1930s detective with the hat and the coat and the suit and the all those kinds of things, and the he goes down and he pays 10 cents for a hamburger, and very that setup. But then it's a magical world, and the father who raised him, the Catholic father who raised him, dies in mysterious ways, and thus sets up our hero to try to figure out what's going on.
All right. Well, this is the part, dear listener, where I remind you to please be kind and speak your mind on the reviewing platforms. Your reviews help the right readers find the right books. So do your part. It really does matter. Before I do the wrap up, Chloe, you look like you were about to say something.
Can I give a shout out to the TV series that we've just discovered?
What's that?
Yes.
It's called Surreal Estate.
Okay.
Oh my.
I've never heard of it. Go on.
It's so Canadian. We watch a lot of Canadian series, and I recognize all of the actors from other Canadian series that we've watched. And it is speculative fiction of the goofiest kind. The pilot is some of the best writing I've seen anywhere. But they can't maintain the humor through the whole series the way that the first one was just pitch perfect. But it's really authentic and really good characters, and they are ghost and demon and possession experts who help people sell their houses.
Nice.
And it's just so funny, and I am digging it. So okay, and did anybody watch Winona Earp?
I've seen some of the episodes, but I haven't.
Yeah. So Doc Holliday is the lead in this series.
Oh,
nice.
So great. I love that role.
Yes, he's
Is
so
it
good.
a connected series, or is it just a similar historic figure?
It's just the same actor. I would follow him anywhere.
Okay.
He was Mutt in Schitt's Creek.
Oh, I loved him. Oh my gosh, yes.
Yes.
Oh,
And-
I need to go look this up.
So the woman who ran the local pub, she is the second lead in this series. Like, you will recognize everybody if you've watched Schitt's Creek or Winona Earp, because all of the actors show up for at least one episode.
Mhm.
Some of them have directed episodes. It's just Canada has this list of speculative actors, and they just blow through them. But it's really fun. I can't endure it. It's a lot of fun.
Is it?
All right.
What service is it on, Chloe?
I have. It might be on Hulu.
Hulu.
Let me
Okay.
check.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Check that out.
Okay. That sounds
All right.
good.
While she's looking that up, Melissa, where can we find you on the wild, wild interwebs?
Okay, so my website has just been updated at melissamcshanewrites.com, and you can find all of my books, ebooks and audiobooks for sale on my storefront at nightharborpress.com. And that's pretty much it. I'm not really active on other things right now, but I'm sure in a few weeks that will change.
All right. Where are you watching this at, Chloe? I'm going to hold on. Give me a second. I'll throw you to the screen.
So
It's on
this is-
Hulu. Okay.
It's on Hulu.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cool.
All right, Charlie, where might we follow you if we're going to stalk you on the wild, wild interwebs?
So you can find me at charliecox.net. Notice how it is spelled. If you throw that E on there, I don't know where you're going to end up on the internet, and I take no responsibility for your typos. You can also find me on Amazon, and I am all over the internet. I am on Facebook, Instagram, X, Twitter, whatever we're calling it now, TikTok, YouTube. I'm everywhere. So come find me.
Okay. What about you, Chloe?
You can find me at chloegarner.com, also known as blunderfiction.com, because that's how fiction comes into being. You can find me on Facebook, follow me on Amazon. If all you're looking for is updates on when I've got new books for sale, my newsletter is a great place to get that. But if you want to hang out with me as a real life human being, my Facebook group is the best place on the internet.
All right. And I can tell you, because I did the typo, if you type in Charlie Cox, you get the actor Charlie Thomas Cox, who played Matt Murdock in Daredevil in the Marvel comic universe.
Yeah.
Okay.
I enjoy him. He's a great actor, even if he does spell his name wrong. Just saying.
I mean, nobody's perfect. All right. Jana, if we wanted to stalk you on the wild, wild interwebs, where might we find you?
Well, I am the loser of internet hide and go seek. So if you look for these pen names and they're connected with publishing, it is almost always me, whether it's on Amazon socials or whatever. You can also find me at Linktree, linktr.ee/Opal Kingdom Press, and that will give you direct links to things if you don't want to search in any other fashion.
All right. And you can find me at jrhanley.com or go from there, and I'll have everything hyperlinked because I'll make it easy. You can follow the podcast at Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast. Again, Linktree/Blasters and Blades Podcast, where we link to all the things: the BitChute, the Rumble, the YouTube, the TikTok, the Twitters. We've got our Spotify, our Discord, our Substack, our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook page. You can email us at blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. Again, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com. For professional purposes only, people. Save the shenanigans from Stabby Stab over there on the Instagram, Twitter, and the email. You can support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. These episodes are not free to produce, and every penny counts. Be sure to put in the comment section that is for the podcast, and I promise we will keep the lights on for you. This will be like your Motel 6, but cooler, because we have science fiction and fantasy. And with that, I would like to thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-hosts, I am J.R. Handley, and this was the Blasters and Blades Podcast. We'll be back next week at not the same time, because this is a bonus episode aired on Saturday, but we'll be back where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things to go boom. And if we haven't gotten the point across by now, tomorrow is Mother's Day. Go tell the mothers in your life that you love them. They deserve it. And if you have forgotten, because you're listening to this on Saturday, there's still time to dash somewhere and get them something. You're not out of time yet. All right. And with that, we're going to hit the end button. Oh, and since every lady on the show tonight is also a mother, happy Mother's Day to all four of you.
Thank you. And happy Mother's Day to JR's mom, who is an amazing human being.
Yes. Happy
Yes.
Mother's
You
Day.
guys
Happy
accuse
Mother's
me a
Day.
lot, so I don't know.
You shush.
All right. With that, we'll hit the end button. Wait for